Good morning, everyone. It's Rabbi Noah Farkas. I'm here in Warsaw at the moment. I spent the day on the border with Ukraine. It's about 2:15 in the morning, I believe. It's been a very, very long day. Just wanted to share a few words. I'm so glad I'm able to join you this afternoon and evening in my home city of Los Angeles. Today we are at the border, and I just want to share with you a few images of what I saw. We saw women and children, the old, the frail, the sick, cross the border in hundreds, if not thousands. I'm surrounded by a tent city of vendors from all over the world, trying to give them food, water, medical supplies, toys for the kids, candy for the kids. Earlier, I was at the Warsaw train station where another group of refugees was disembarking, and there they had a PlayStation for kids to color and do crafts, and I saw moms staring off into the distance, exhausted. Earlier today, I was in the town of Lublin, one of the most important and famous towns in Polish Jewish history. The Yeshiva of Chochmei Lublin is where some of the greatest rabbis of Ashkenazi Judaism found their home. In fact, the very idea of studying a single page of Talmud, Daf Yomi, was instituted at that yeshiva. And that yeshiva has now been converted into a warehouse for sorting items being brought from all over Europe to help refugees. And next to that yeshiva is a hotel that the Joint Distribution Committee, a global partner of ours, has established. And they have about 200 beds there, where we met with a series of other refugees who were exhausted, tired, women, children, families. Some had no plans. Some don't know what to do next. Some wanted to go to Israel. Some wanted to just go back home. And to date, I know that over 7,000 refugees have been processed by the Jewish Agency for Israel. 2,000 have already made it to Israel. There's another flight leaving tomorrow and another one at the end of the week. They expect to get tens of thousands of more. There's nearly 3 million refugees as of today. And the reason why I say women and children and the frail and the sick is because there are no men. The men had to stay behind. They are conscripted into the army or the service of Ukraine to fight, to survive, to resist. And so these women and children, many of whom had to leave at a moment's notice, many of them have small school bags or tote bags and coats. They could be just like us. This war is very different than one in other countries. These women, these children, these families could have gone to piano lessons yesterday and now are at the train station today. And so I share these stories with you in the hope that they don't just remain stories. Stories are wonderful things. We have the Bible is full of them. A third of the Bible, a third of the Torah is full of stories. But stories only remain that. They remain things which come and go, float away on the wind, become half forgotten tomorrow or the next day, unless those stories inspire action. In the Torah, we would say that the stories lead to mitzvah. They lead to commandment. They lead to an expectation, a demand that we do something. And so I came on behalf of the Jewish community here in Los Angeles as a delegation of the Federation, which has built a system over 100 years in relationships with the Joint Distribution Committee, which has existed before the State of Israel, and with JAFI, the Jewish Agency for Israel, that has existed in relationship in one way or another for almost 100 years to help struggling Jews and Jewish community across the globe. This infrastructure, this global infrastructure, as part of the voluntary philanthropy of global Jewry, was built for moments like this. But if you want these stories to not just be stories, if you want them to become mitzvot, if you want them to become a command, if you want them to become a value and expectation upon ourselves, We have to turn these stories into action, which means that you, all of you listening, watching in synagogue tonight, celebrating as faith neighbors in Los Angeles, can take a stand. You can ask the government of the United States to open its borders to let in Ukrainian refugees. You can give money to the Federation on our website so we can funnel it through the system and to the street as quickly as possible. You can give money to our annual campaign, which supports JDC and Jaffe on a regular basis, as well as a number of other programs that supports global Jewry. Because these stories will only be stories. When the news moves on, these people will be forgotten, and nothing will come of it unless we turn these stories into mitzvot, into commandments, into actions. And so I ask you to pray with me tonight, say a brief prayer, an evening prayer, as it's in the middle of the night here, a prayer for peace. But don't let this prayer be the only prayer, and don't let it be the only story. Let it lead to action. For those of you who know this prayer, please join me if you can, and otherwise just please say amen at the end. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu malkeinu l'chaim. O God, lay me down in peace, raise me up to life again. V'frosalenu sukat shlomecha, v'taknenu be'etza tova milfanecha, v'hoshienu l'ma'an shemecha, v'agen ba'adenu. Spread over us the shelter of your peace, and establish us good counsel for you, and save all of us for your name's sake, and strengthen us. V'haser me'aleinu oyev dever v'cherev v'rav yagon, v'haser satan milfanenu ma'cherenu, v'tzel k'nevecha tastirenu, ki el shomrenu l'shalom me'ata v'yad olam. Before us and after us, help rid us of our enemies, of pestilence, of sword, of hunger, of famine, of sorrow, for those things in front of us and behind us that terrorize us. Bring us under the shelter of your loving wings, and guard us and keep us for peace now and forever. Baruch atah Adonai, hapares sukat shalom aleinu, ve'kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim. Praised are you, God, the one who brings the capability of peace, shelter of peace upon us, upon all people, upon Israel, and upon Jerusalem. And together we say, Amen.